Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Tonight we're expecting the White House to convene a celebration for the swearing in of Amy Coney Barrett as a justice of the Supreme Court. The Senate vote to confirm her is currently underway, and there's little doubt the Republican majority will succeed in getting what they wanted here. But if most Americans are not in a celebratory mood tonight, well, really, who can blame them? Here are the latest numbers on the coronavirus outbreak in this country. Over 62,000 new cases today on a Monday, which is a low reporting day. As you can see from the red chart, we are well into a third spike. And over 42,000 Americans right now are hospitalized tonight as I speak to you. That's the blue chart on the right of your screen. Cases are peaking. They are at their all-time high in 20 different states. Look at that. 20 different states across this country. Hospital capacity is surging in El Paso and Utah. And it looks like the outbreak is only going to get worse and worse. And the message we're hearing from the White House is, you're on your own. We are done with this. That's not really an exaggeration. Listen to the president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, yesterday morning.
We're not going to control the pandemic. We are going to control the fact that we get vaccines, therapeutics, and other mitigation.
Why aren't we going to get control of the pandemic?
Because it is a contagious virus, just like the flu.
Yeah, but why?
Oh, it's a contagious virus? Huh. Great point. Yeah, I guess we should just give it up, right? They're not even going to try to control the pandemic as it continues to ravage the country. Their words. The president has made this even part of his stump speech.
Barron, he had it. The doctor said, you know, Barron, very, very tall young man. And a great guy, right? But he's young. And the doctor said, Sir, Barron has tested positive. I said, that's terrible. Barron didn't even know he said, next day the doctor comes in, Sir, Barron's fine. The fact is, I had it. It worked out well. Now I'm immune. I could run up and kiss this whole group of people, men and women.
So that's the message from the president. My very tall son and I got it, and we're fine. So suck it up, Buttercup. This event on the South Lawn tonight, this celebration for Amy Coney Barrett, is a sort of bookend on a crazy and crazily destructive 4 weeks in American political history. It was 4 weeks ago the president convened this super spreader event at the White House Rose Garden to formally announce his nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court before Ruth Bader Ginsburg was even in the ground. And at least 14 people who attended that event, they're fraternizing without masks, in close proximity, breathing on each other. 14 of them tested positive in the following days, including, of course, the president and first lady and 2 U.S. senators and Kellyanne Conway, Chris Christie, who was hospitalized in the ICU for a week, and the White House press secretary. The president may have already even been infected with the virus by the first debate that following Tuesday, and we just got lucky he didn't infect his 77-year-old opponent. And here's the most important thing to take away from those pictures you see of the Rose Garden there. It was not just Trumpists at the Rose Garden last month. It was all the major players in the institutional Republican Party who were there, and the Federalist Society. Everyone went along with it because this Supreme Court nomination is what brings them all together. This is the brutally destructive, cynical deal struck between Donald Trump and the Republican Party writ large. They let the president do whatever he wants, line his pockets by shaking down the government, shred our democratic institution, destroy the country's pandemic coping capacity, as long as he gives them judges and justices and some tax cuts for rich people and corporations. That's the corrupt bargain. It was on display in all those smiles and those hugs and those attaboys in the Rose Garden super spreader event. Probably led the White House outbreak. And now here we are 4 weeks later. Over 30,000 people have died in those 4 weeks. And a third crest of cases is happening, as you can see on the graph on the right side of your screen. And now we have a second White House outbreak. Who could have predicted? Around Vice President Mike Pence, this time 5 people in Pence's orbit have tested positive, his chief of staff, an advisor, and 3 staffers. The president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, even confirmed they tried to conceal the latest outbreak because, of course, why wouldn't they? Now, the vice president's still traveling all over the country for campaign events, as is the president, despite an analysis from USA Today showing cases surged in the wake of Trump campaign events in multiple states. So the virus remains out of control. The Trump administration is officially saying they are done with even trying to deal with it. In fact, they kind of flirt with the idea that it's nice to get it. Look at me. And it's fitting that amidst this bleakness for the rest of us, they've come together to celebrate their own personal victory. Their message down the stretch, the final stretch of this campaign, to the American people is, we got our judges and justices, and we got coronavirus and survived, so you are all on your own. There's nothing you can do about it. Mitch McConnell made that explicit yesterday on the Senate floor.
This is something to really be proud of and to feel good about. We've made an important contribution to the future of this country. A lot of what we've done over the last 4 years will be undone sooner or later by the next election. They won't be able to do much about this for a long time to come.
They won't be able to do much about this for a long time to come. You know what? He's right. Although there's one thing that was missing in his speech. It's something that's been missing from a lot of conservatives I see writing about the election. Something else that Mitch McConnell and the institutional Republican Party and all the staffers and the lawyers and the factotums and the functionaries and the people sitting in the White House watching this right now, perhaps the people in Capitol Hill who have TV on right now, and the right-wing press who've been supporting and spinning for this president, and the people who work for Donald Trump himself and all of his apologists who like to post as independent thinkers, too clever by half, removed from it all, something that every last one of them have done together, other than Supreme Court justices, which cannot be reversed. And that is they have participated in a project that has led to the deaths of probably 100,000 Americans who didn't have to die. Congratulations, you got that done too. That also can't be reversed. They can't come back. We can't undo that. That's the other accomplishment here, Judge Barrett. They traded one for the other. They traded those lies for this justice. And they had a party about it in the Rose Garden, too, now. We can't do anything about the lives we've lost or about Amy Coney Barrett being on the Supreme Court. She's going to be now. So all we can do is take that rage and channel it, rise up together as a country to kick them out of power and begin some work towards repairing what they've broken and mourning those we've lost.
It is Tuesday, the 27th of October of 2020. And you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. And our daily special is Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, a small scant dash, a mere pinch of hot smoked Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world, and it always has, and it always will. Hey, how are you? We've got a Stepford jurist on the Supreme Court now. Of course, she's not really a jurist, is she? McConnell came out and admitted as such. He said, well, I actually think we have a great political asset on the court. That's right out of Moscow Mitch's mouth. They're not looking for a jurist. That's why she's so unqualified. They weren't looking for a jurist with Kavanaugh either, and that's evidenced by, well, that Wisconsin opinion that he wrote where he absolutely lied. Lied about a report, lied about what ballots are. You know, mail-in ballots are valid ballots, so there's no election results to overturn until all the ballots are counted, Brett. But they are doing everything they can to steal an election again. That's right. John Roberts, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and now Barrett. All part of the team of Brooks Brothers rioters screaming outside the Florida election offices, yelling, "Stop the count! Stop the count!" Mark my words. It'll be very soon. I think maybe even, we'll say 5 Scaramucci's. And the Supreme Court will rule 6-3 to not even count any votes. Well, I guess it'll be less than 5 Scaramucci's, because Election Day is next week. They want to stop the vote count now. They don't want to wait till Election Day. Certainly they're not going to allow, and that's what the Wisconsin verdict is, any ballots that come after the 3rd, even though they were postmarked on or before the 3rd, and this is after the post office has been mucked up. And this is after drop boxes, for instance, in Texas, are limited to 1 per county. And if a county has 4 million people, too bad. Let them line up. Oh, you want to drop your ballot off by car? No, you can't do that. You want a chair to sit while you wait in line? That's illegal. 6-3. Yeah, we're on a Coney Island now. I guess we're just going to have to grin and bear it. See what I did there? You see where I went? All right. So that's only that's I have to say the least of our worries, because there's still going on 300,000 people dead who didn't need to die. Oh, I know Trump was on the campaign trail whining that in other countries when people have COVID and then they have a heart condition and they die they die when they have COVID. It's not the COVID, it's the heart condition. Well, they wouldn't have died if they hadn't had the COVID condition, Donnie. And people don't get COVID by being tested. I still do not understand how anybody can wrap their brains around the idea that if you test something, then it exists. What are we, quantum mechanics in, I don't know, the natural world? That stuff only works on the quantum level, Donnie. What the hell? I guess he's some sort of strange quark. Or antimatter. That's probably what it is. Yep, the mysterious dark force. On the quantum level, personified here and now. All right. Maybe we are just a computer simulation. I don't know. A lot of physicists have been surmising as such. Maybe. I just wish that we could self-program. In fact, I think that's how we're supposed to do it. Well, enough of that conjecture, because we have an actual curated show for you here today at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Indeed, we always do, but today even more so. Well, once again, they did not appoint jurists for the Supreme Court. In fact, I would argue that Mitch McConnell hasn't put a jurist on anywhere in any court at any level. They are all political assets. Every single one. On the rest of the menu, a Trump appointee quit over Trump's executive order requiring political loyalty pledges from federal workers. We've never done that in a democracy before, especially the oldest one. Rather than tracing, testing, and treatment, House Republicans want to cure COVID with tax cuts. That's their cure-all. It doesn't cure anything. In fact, it really makes the rest of democracy sick, but I think that's the point. They have some sort of weird Munchausen syndrome, I think. And after nearly 150 years, the Salt Lake Tribune will stop printing a daily edition. Goodbye, newspapers. Goodbye, America. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where the mother of a journalist held in Syria says Pompeo is undermining his release. And Trump joined an international coalition to oppose health care for women. That's the way to get the suburban housewife. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the rightish of the page is our chat room link, and the chat room is right there by the social media scroll, deftly placed by superior graphic design, of course. The chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln, and Kelly does so much more than just monitor the chat room. Okay, she's a hard worker, and not only here at Netroots Radio, but in real life, and we thank Kelly for doing all that she does. To the leftish of that chat room link that is really near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you will then hopefully find the link to our Patreon page, and that's there because, well, we need help. We always have, and we always will, because we do things that the Republicans would never do, and that's follow your conscience. Fulfill your civic duty. They would never do that. It's all a money-making operation for them. But we appeal to you to help us out, and if you could afford an espresso-type coffee drink sent our way once a month, we're able to stretch those dollars. Hey, I mentioned the quantum level earlier. When it comes to paying our bills, we are down there at that quantum level, and we leave no strange quark unturned. We stretch them all out to, well, where they're no longer filaments, but they're independent points on the quantum level. And then we're able to pay those bills with those independent points that we've stretched beyond compare. See? And we've been doing it for almost 10 years now. And we are in the process, if you don't know already, because I've been saying it every day, that we are getting newish machinery to replace the workhorses that have been working like workhorses for the last 4 years. And that was right around the time that we replaced the previous workhorses that we had from the beginning. So we eke out every bit of data and energy these machines have, and they really need to be put off to the side and replaced, and that's what we're doing. And we got to get the software too. I wish we could just transfer all this software. We can sort of, but not all of it. So we really are stuck with buying new software also, darn it. But thank you for your generosity, because we would truly be unable to do any of this without you. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, do so at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that. Plus, voiceovers for the interstitials and station IDs and so much more. Thank you, Tom. I, of course, take care of at Justice Putnam on Twitter, and you might as well follow me there, because that's where I post the show notes and links, diaries that I post on first on Daily Co's, and then I link it up at Justice Putnam, and other places too, out there on social media. But follow me there at Justice Putnam, and you can also follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West. The English sous chef is snoozing very loudly right now. And pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes. Did I say that already? Anyway, pick them up wherever you can find them. I got to get on Amazon, too. I keep forgetting. There's so much to do around here, even though we're locked in. Man, I have to, find a new mail prescription service, since the current one is not going to be supported by Blue Shield, and that's where the company that my mom's pension is through is moving their health care plan because of Donnie. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. So, yeah, there's been a lot of that going on, and it's not easy. Never is. Okay, well, enough of the personal. Let's get down into what's happening in the world. And this first offering here in the curated part of the show, here in the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy's Bistro Cafe. Hey, I'm going to get it out. Josh Israel of the American Independent does bring us this first offering. A top Trump administration appointee. Now, this is a guy that Trump appointed because he's looking for loyalty, okay? Well, he resigned on Sunday over the administration's latest attack on federal workers. In a scathing letter, he accused the administration of creating a smokescreen for its attempt to ensure federal employees show total loyalty to Donald Trump. Screw your oath to the Constitution. You show loyalty to the dictator, or you don't work in this administration, or worse. Ronald Sanders, who Trump picked in 2017 to chair the Federal Salary Council, wrote that he was resigning with, quote, great regret, but that he, quote, concluded that as a matter of conscience, I can no longer serve him or his administration. Well, he has a conscience. Obviously, he's unqualified for this administration, obviously. Sanders was outraged over Executive Order 13957 that was issued last Wednesday, which reclassified many non-political civil service employees as at will, stripping them of their labor rights and workplace protections. In other words, civil servants are not protected in a democracy anymore because Donald Trump says so. And why is he saying it? Because he's got to get rid of Fauci. And what better way to deconstruct the administrative state in the process? The White House did not immediately respond to an inquiry for this story because they're a crime cartel. But the Trump administration previously called the move, which affects career public servants with confidential policy determining, policy making, and policy advocating positions, a much-needed reform to increase accountability in essential policy-making positions within the government. That's the White House saying that. Of course, public employee unions and ethical experts disagreed, and so, according to his resignation letter, does Sanders. On its surface, the president's executive order purports to serve a legitimate and laudable purpose. That is to hold career federal employees more accountable for their performance, he wrote, noting that he has spent nearly 40 years trying to do just that. However, it is clear that its stated purpose notwithstanding, the executive order is nothing more than a smokescreen for what is clearly an attempt to require political loyalty of those who advise the president, or failing that, to enable their remove without due process. Sanders noted that he, like the federal employees this executive order impacts, took an oath to preserve and protect our Constitution and the rule of law. I took that same oath, and despite being a lifelong Republican, I was even named after Ronald Reagan, I would like to think that I lived up to it, he wrote. Yet the president's, and that's Trump, by the way, executive order seeks to make loyalty to him the litmus test for many thousands of career civil servants, and that is something I cannot be a part of. Josh Israel also brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. House Republicans claimed yesterday, Monday, that they, not House Democrats, have the solution to the COVID-19 pandemic. And what is that? Well, of course, more tax cuts and corporate welfare. In a tweeted video, the minority side of the House Ways and Means Committee claimed that a bill from Ranking Member Representative Kevin Brady, Repug of Texas, and the dumbest member of the House outside of Gomert, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, bolsters at House GOP's commitment to America. Commitment to America? You mean a commitment on America? Democrats have passed bills that make their priorities very clear, the video claims. Spoiler alert, it's not about fighting coronavirus. What? Instead, the 36-second clip suggests the GOP's Commitment to American Growth Act would provide the action Americans deserve. But the GOP video does not reveal a plan that's focused on stopping the pandemic. Instead, it claims the bill is about jobs and wages, supporting American job creators, medical independence from China. What? And winning the innovation race. Wow, those are winning slogans, huh? Of course, I like the medical independence from China. Whatever that means. Sounds racist. You know why? Because it is. In a press release earlier this month announcing the legislation, Brady and McCarthy, of course, you know McCarthy's a repug from California, and he may lose his position. We can only hope. Noted that their bill locks in key provisions of the successful Trump tax cuts to boost American jobs and paychecks, and provides new tax cuts and incentives to American manufacturers. And what type of incentives might those be? Incentives to leave the country? At the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The Salt Lake Tribune announced yesterday, Monday, it will stop printing a daily newspaper at the end of the year after nearly 150 years and move to a weekly print edition. The change won't result in cuts to the newsroom staff of about 65 people, though some would be redeployed, the newspaper reported. Reporters and editors will continue to file breaking news online as it happens. The new publication will be delivered by mail. Nearly 160 press operators, carriers, and other employees will lose their jobs. The news comes after two recent ownership changes. The paper was purchased in 2016 by Paul Huntsman, son of the late billionaire industrialist John Huntsman Sr., and brother to former U.S.-Russia Ambassador John Huntsman Jr. Last year, Paul Huntsman shepherded the Tribune into becoming a nonprofit in hopes of ensuring its long-term viability amid declining newspaper revenues nationwide. He cited continued declines and economic upheaval related to the coronavirus pandemic, and he announced a decision to newsroom staffers, calling it a painful but necessary concession. I always hated that when they said, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. Really? I think it's going to hurt us a lot more. This is a historic moment in the industry, but one that reflects the reality of today's news consumption. Huntsman, who remains chair of the nonprofit board, said in a statement, the new weekly publication is expected to be profitable, showcasing the reporter's best enterprise work and in-depth stories, as well as obituaries and expanded editorial content. Oh, pay to play? The decision also ends a joint operating agreement with the other major daily in Salt Lake City, the Desert News. It is owned by the state's predominant faith, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The agreement, once common when many cities had two newspapers, had the two publications cooperating on printing, delivery, and advertising, but not on stories. The Deseret News has not announced its future plans for print, but did say in a story on its website it was laying off 6 journalists and giving severance packages to 18 staffers in visual editing and sales departments. Sad news all around. All right, let's get to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Karen Hopkin. The statues on Easter Island are among the most mysterious objects made by humans. We still don't know how they were moved, why they were placed at particular sites around the island, and why they were made in the first place. Now, researchers think they have at least some answers, because a new analysis finds that the statues are located near sources of fresh water. The study appears in the journal PLOS One. It's believed that the residents of Rapa Nui, the indigenous name for Easter Island, began constructing these carvings in the 13th century. The statues, called moai, which sit upon stone platforms called ahu, are the very definition of monumental. Most weigh between 20 and 30 tons, and of the 1,000 on the island, about 400 have been moved from the quarry where they originated and placed on ahu located elsewhere.
But those ahu locations aren't necessarily everywhere. They're in some places and not in others. And the questions that we started to ask ourselves was, well, why do we find these ahu and moai some places on the landscape but not others?
Carl Lippo, an anthropologist at Binghamton University in central New York. He says that most of these sculptures are found along the coast, but some are inland, and they're not necessarily in obvious places.
For example, we don't find ahu and statues located on the tops of hills, places that we might expect to find them if these things were symbolic or representing ancestors, where you wanted to show off to the world, or the island itself, the fruits of your creation of these statues.
So, the statues are more than just towering talismans to be admired from afar. Indeed, Lippo and his colleagues noted that people spent most of their time living and working around these sites, which made the researchers think that the statues might be located near a valuable resource.
So the question was, what resource was it? Water, freshwater, marine resources, or cultivation places? Which of those, or which combination of those, best explained the locations of ahu on the landscape?
And their statistical analyses pointed toward potable water, which Lippo says made sense.
Every single time we found a big source of fresh water, there would be a statue in an ahu. And we saw this over and over and over again. In places where we didn't find fresh water, we didn't find statues in ahu.
Now, that doesn't mean that the sculptures served as markers, like a sign saying, "Get your water here."
But rather that the community themselves were connected to those resources, and thus their investment in statues was done around that resource, because these are the locations that had the resources that they needed to survive.
It seems that many of these massive sculptures are where they are for totally pragmatic reasons. We'll build here because here is where we want to be. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Karen Hopkin.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
For an expectant mother, taking care of her developing baby means taking good care of herself. One way she can do this is by ensuring she gets vaccinated. If a woman is or might be pregnant during flu season, it's especially important to get her annual flu shot, preferably before the end of October. In addition, women should be vaccinated against whooping cough during the 3rd trimester of each pregnancy. Failure to get vaccinated places both mother and baby at increased risk for serious complications of these infections, including hospitalization and even death. If you're pregnant or planning to get pregnant, ask your healthcare provider when you should get your vaccines. Thank you for joining us on A Minute of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO. This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Colorectal cancer is the number 2 cancer killer of men and women in the United States, but it is preventable. Early on, colorectal cancer typically has no symptoms. It starts with a precancerous polyp or abnormal growth in the colon, which can be removed without surgery. Several tests are available to find these polyps, so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. Screening also finds colorectal cancer early when treatment works best. Recommended screening for adults at average risk begins at age 50 and continues until age 75. Learn about screening test options and find out which tests are covered by insurance. Talk to your healthcare provider about when you should be screened and discuss the best tests for you. For more information about colorectal cancer prevention, please visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This is a message from CDC.
After hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, standing water and excess moisture help mold grow in your home, garage, and other structures. When you return to a home that has been flooded, know that you're likely to have mold. Mold puts your family's health at risk. If you have mold growing in your home, you should clean it up and fix other water problems, such as leaks in roofs, walls, or plumbing. Keep your children and pets out of affected areas until you've cleaned. Control moisture in your home to prevent mold growth. To remove mold growth from hard surfaces, use commercial products, soap and water, or a bleach solution of no more than 1 cup of household laundry bleach in 1 gallon of water. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. Never mix bleach with ammonia or other household cleaners. It will produce dangerous, toxic fumes. Open windows and doors to provide fresh air.
For more information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1837. That was the day that Louisa Lee Schuyler was born in New York City. She was dedicated to the causes of public health and welfare, especially for the poor. This led her to help found the Bellevue Training School for Nurses in 1873. It was the first nurses' school in the United States based on the principles of Florence Nightingale, the English social reformer who established modern nursing practices. Louisa had become concerned with the conditions found at the city's public hospitals. Along with 3 other women, she toured Bellevue Hospital, finding poor lighting, dire sanitary conditions, and even a laundry that had run out of soap. The women wrote up a report about their findings. They made the case that a professionally trained nursing staff would help remedy the situation. The work of women during the Civil War had shown the potentially important role of nurses in providing medical care. The women's request was approved on a trial basis at Bellevue. Bellevue Hospital had opened its doors in 1736, making it the oldest continually running public hospital in the United States. The first class of nurses included just 6 women. Early training focused on improving sanitary conditions at the hospital and seeing to patient comfort. But instruction grew quickly to include basic medical training. By 1879, enrollment had grown to more than 60 trainees. Proud of their accomplishments, graduates wore a school pin. Designed by Tiffany & Company, the pin portrayed a crane in the middle of a wreath of poppies. The school operated for nearly a century, until the training program was incorporated into Hunter College. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
I read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
Monday, October 26th, 2020. It will go down as one of the darkest days in the 231-year history of the United States Senate.
For the first time in American history, a new Associate Justice to the Supreme Court was confirmed without a single vote from the minority party. The deeply divided Senate voted 52-48 Monday to confirm Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. Republicans pushed the nomination through over objections from Democrats who argued that the winner of next week's presidential election should fill the seat of the late liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Barrett, the 5th woman to ever serve on the court, increases conservatives' majority to 6-3 as the court is set to take on issues like health care, abortion, gun rights, and voting rights, with effects that will last for at least a generation. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said Republicans acted in bad faith by confirming Barrett with an election underway after blocking former President Barack Obama's nominee 8 months before Election Day in 2016.
This Republican Senate majority is breaking faith with you, doing the exact opposite of what it promised 4 years ago, because they wish to cement a majority on the Supreme Court that threatens your fundamental rights. And I want to be very clear with my Republican colleagues. You may win this vote, and Amy Coney Barrett may become the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. But you will never, never get your credibility back. And the next time the American people give Democrats a majority in this chamber, you will have forfeited the right to tell us how to run that majority.
Republicans never had the right to tell Democrats how to run their majority in the first place. Maybe that's part of the problem. And frankly, there's louder protesting coming from the progressive wing of the party. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, quote, "Expand the court. Republicans do this because they don't believe Dems have the stones to play hardball like they do. And for a long time, they've been correct. But do not let them bully the public into thinking their bulldozing is normal, but a response isn't. There is a legal process for expansion." Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Republicans broke no rules and were able to do what they did, quote, "because we had the majority." After the vote, a swearing-in ceremony with Justice Clarence Thomas administering the oath was held at the White House, along with a huge celebration. The announcement of Barrett's nomination happened just a month ago at another similar White House event that triggered a coronavirus outbreak among attendees. There were similarly few masks visible at Monday night's swearing in. By the way, the use of the White House as a backdrop and likely campaign commercial is unique to the Trump administration alone. Obama's 2 Supreme Court nominees were both sworn in at the Supreme Court, as is the usual protocol, to avoid any appearance of impropriety or political alignment. No such concerns exist for Trump. And the Republicans showed their true colors as the House Judiciary Committee Republicans led by Jim Jordan fired off a tweet announcing Barrett's confirmation, adding, "Happy birthday at Hillary Clinton." Monday was Clinton's 73rd birthday. Even before Barrett was confirmed, the rightward tilting court flexed its conservative muscles by declining Monday to extend the deadline for mail-in ballots in Wisconsin. Justice Elena Kagan wrote the dissent, joined by Breyer and Sotomayor, in which she protested the decision, saying, quote, "The court has failed to adequately protect the nation's voters," and added that it would disenfranchise large numbers of responsible voters in the midst of hazardous pandemic conditions. So absentee ballots in Wisconsin now must be received by the close of polls on Election Day, or they'll wind up in the trash. But this is an important point. Hidden within the main concurrence written by Justice Brett Kavanaugh are 2 threats that are even greater than overturning 6 extra days for Wisconsin ballots to arrive by mail. Kavanaugh explicitly endorsed legal theories that could help Donald Trump stop the counting of mailed ballots after Election Day, or worse, override results with the help of Republican state legislatures. Pay attention. On the Senate floor, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's up for re-election in 2022, made some impassioned remarks.
Generations yet unborn will suffer the consequences of this nomination. As the globe gets warmer, as workers continue to fall behind, as unlimited dark money floods our politics, as reactionary state legislatures curtail a woman's right to choose, gerrymander districts, and limit the rights of minorities to vote, my deepest, greatest, and most abiding sadness tonight is for the American people and what this nomination will mean for their lives, their freedoms, their fundamental rights.
Now, all this is happening just 1 week out from Election Day, and as the world's new infections of the coronavirus are soaring. The U.S. has seen almost 500,000 new cases in 1 week, as the dreaded fall surge continues to grow. And some places could be close to what former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb called an exponential spread. And that's not the only bad news. A new British study has shown a decline in coronavirus antibodies over 3 months, a sign that immunity to COVID-19 is not as strong as we had hoped. This meshes with other studies that showed people who tested positive but were asymptomatic are likely to lose antibodies faster than people with more severe symptoms. Oh, and the American Academy of Pediatrics says it's seen a 14% increase in childhood COVID-19 cases over the last 2 weeks, and pediatric cases now make up more than 10% of all cases in the U.S. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security is preparing for the possibility of civil unrest as next week's contentious election inches closer. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is putting personnel on standby, and Customs and Border Protection has been regularly training personnel since agents were controversially deployed this summer to respond to unrest in U.S. cities. And Donald Trump continues to hold rallies. There were 3 on Monday, during which he only mentioned Amy Coney Barrett 3 times, each time seemingly in passing. And not once did he mention the standoff over the stimulus or talk about Nancy Pelosi for her negotiating tactics. Strange strategy. And the conservative New Hampshire union leader officially endorsed Joe Biden for president, its first Democratic presidential candidate endorsement in more than a century. The newspaper praised Biden as a, quote, caring, compassionate, and professional public servant in a lengthy editorial. Quote, Joe Biden may not be the president we want, but in 2020, He is the president we desperately need. He will be a president to bring people together and right the ship of state. And two more items. A new fast-spreading wildfires forced 60,000 people to evacuate their homes in Irvine, California. That's in Orange County, about 50 miles southeast of downtown Los Angeles. Steady winds of up to 30 miles per hour with gusts reaching 65 fueled the blaze. And a little further east, as if the Gulf Coast hasn't suffered enough during this hurricane season, here we go again. Zeta, the earliest ever 27th named storm of the Atlantic season, strengthened to a hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour on Monday afternoon, just southeast of Mexico's Cozumel Island. Forecasters say it's expected to strengthen again as it pushes northeast into the Gulf of Mexico. Zeta is expected to reach and hit the U.S. anywhere from Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. Hurricane season officially ends the end of November. And that's just a bit of what's news for now. I'm Nicole Sandler. If you appreciate these reports and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. My work is 100% listener supported, and I can't do it without your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com, and please click on that donate button.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 29 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a little cooler than they said it would be. Anyway, we should have highs in the upper 60s, low 70s today with abundant sunshine throughout the day. Winds will be light and variable and clear skies tonight with lows in the mid to upper 30s. Winds will remain light and variable. Sunny tomorrow with a high, they're saying, in the low to mid 70s with winds light and variable. Wow. Confirmed coronavirus cases in Jackson County in the southern part of Oregon is now at 1,684. We continue to increase by scores every day. Deceased remain at 6 confirmed. Of course, we do know that is a gross undercount. Pollen is rated as none right outside the window here at the mothership in Rogue River proper. The air quality index in the region is good at 24 parts per million. And that daytime UV index is now in the green as low. And the daytime UV is now rated at 2. Well, that's a seasonal change. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 30.32 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 66%, and it's going to get a lot drier as the day goes on. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. London is 56 and cloudy. Paris is 54 with a rain shower. Rome is 66 and partly cloudy. Kyiv is 56 and fair. Kabul is 60 degrees and fair. Hong Kong is 74 and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 60 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 60 and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 57 degrees and clear. And New York is 54 degrees Fahrenheit and cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Anonymous worker bees at Reuters bring us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The mother of Austin Tice, a freelance journalist and former U.S. Marine officer who disappeared while reporting in Syria in 2012, yesterday Monday, accused U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo of undermining her efforts to free her son. In a statement released ahead of the November 3rd U.S. election, Deborah Tice appeared to be trying to play Pompeo off against Donald Trump, who has stressed his desire to bring Tice home and other U.S. citizens detained abroad. Unfortunately for Austin, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is undermining the president's crucial outreach, refusing any form of direct diplomatic engagement with the Syrian government, she said. Trump, and she calls him the P word, is committed to seeing Austin walk free, whereas Pompeo is willing to accept his continued detention. A Trump administration official on the 18th of October confirmed a newspaper report that a White House official visited Damascus this year for secret meetings with the Syrian government, seeking the release of Tice and another U.S. citizen. Asked on the 21st of this month about the report and whether Washington was ready to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria to secure their release, Pompeo said, "We'll continue to work for the return not only of Austin, but of every American that's held. We're not going to change American policy to do that. And as the president said clearly, we don't pay for the return of hostages," Pompeo added, repeating long-standing U.S. policy, forgetting that Bill Barr got Ronald Reagan off for paying terrorists for hostages.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière, la promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle, c'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Lisa Needham of the American Independent brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The Trump administration continues to curry favor with anti-abortion activists and lawmakers. This time, it's on the international scale. The administration just signed on to the Geneva Consensus, which the administration describes as promoting women's health and strengthening the family. But that is not the case. The Geneva Consensus is a consensus of only 6 sponsor countries: Brazil, Egypt, Hungary, Indonesia, Uganda, and the United States. Wow. What all of those countries have in common is that they are staunchly anti-abortion. All but the U.S. and Brazil ban same-sex marriage. An additional 26 countries are signatories, including Poland, where the country's highest court just banned nearly all abortions, and we reported yesterday on the massive protests across the country in which mass was disrupted because of that law. The Declaration exists mostly to push back against the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights because that's what fascist, theocratic countries want to do. In 2018, the UN Human Rights Committee issued a detailed general comment on the right to life, which said that abortion is a human right. And now we're signatories with countries who have the worst human rights abuses in the world. We better get this guy out on November 3rd because he's not going to allow any ballots to be counted on November 4th. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. And you do know that Netroots Radio will broadcast on, and we'll meet up tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here tomorrow, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte coeur. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.